Hey, this is Mike Gingrich. I want to welcome you to another Alive with Mike. And today we want to talk about some new web tools, some things that have just rolled out. And particularly, this is one that's going to integrate with a lot of software that people have or are using for their business, QuickBooks. So if you're using QuickBooks, stay tuned for that. So going to take a look at that. Also going to take a look at a little orientation to mobile app development. So, all the apps you get on the iPhone, Android, Google Play Store. Let's talk about that and what it means, the development side of that, so you can be educated on how you're going to begin thinking about that if your business is beginning to think about an app. All right. So first off, how many of your businesses are using QuickBooks as the accounting software? It could be quite a few of you, and many of you maybe got started with QuickBooks Desktop. Maybe you're still there, and then there's QuickBooks Online. Okay, one of the barriers up to this point in time has been a lack of integration with QuickBooks with anything on your website to be able to get that information in there quickly and easily. Okay, so think about this. You have an e-commerce store, there's orders there, and you want to get that information, orders information into QuickBooks, and maybe have them talk back and forth a little bit so that there's, inventory levels are known, all that kind of piece. How do you do that? Until more recently, there was not a good solution for this. But there is a third-party integration software which really kind of stands in the middle between those two, between your QuickBooks, either desktop or QuickBooks Online, and your website, your e-commerce store, and can make those things talk together. And the software is called MyWorks, altogether MyWorks. And the MyWorks is a third-party software, like I said, so it's going to have its own pricing structure in between. But what it does is it's a middleware, and so it kind of it works with some of the API options that QuickBooks has made available, and it brings that, so your data can be sitting in the middle. And then it works with tools like WooCommerce, which is the dominant e-commerce platform WordPress websites use, and it puts that together in the middle, and they can talk. So it can say, here was an order. Let's send that. The order was $49.95. And they ordered, that was a total order, and there was 3 of these products ordered. Boom. So that order information then goes to QuickBooks, and it can be synced into QuickBooks. So that's a key tool. There's, so it obviously helps you with reporting, helps you with inventory, helps you with tracking, helps you with maybe where you've had to do redundant and inefficient manual re-entry. Somebody orders on the website, then you got to go over to QuickBooks and you got to, manually type that in. So get rid of all those pieces, automate that process with MyWorks. Okay, so there's integrations. There are different ones for whether you have QuickBooks Desktop, which is kind of the standalone software that you put on a computer, or if you have QuickBooks Online. But it works with either of those. You just have to know which one. Get the right software for yourselves. It does have a cost. They do have good support in there. It is a monthly cost, so that keeps going for you because you're using that data point. So it's something that you would sign up for, and it becomes a critical piece of middleware that you continually use. And you can do product mapping, map customers, payment gateways, products, much more. Let's see what else. There's Automap. There's some things that it will help do between the two systems there, and it's pretty extensive within that. So I know a lot of people use QuickBooks and they haven't had a solution. They do a lot of manual reentry and it's been inefficient. So MyWorks is a tool that if you have an e-commerce website, particularly taking a look at ones that, like we develop with WooCommerce, you can now get all that data into QuickBooks quickly and easily. So definitely can recommend that you take a look at MyWorks. That's something that we can do. Typically there is a integration piece there. You have to buy the software. There might be some things in the WooCommerce side that we do, and MyWorks can take care of the QuickBooks to MyWorks piece of that together. So making all that happen can save you time, save you dollars, make you more efficient, ultimately save money even with that monthly subscription. Okay, so that's the first key. And then also today I want to talk about apps. Apps continue to grow in use. You probably already use some apps on your phone today. Okay, and that one of the things that we get, people come to us and they say, I want an app. Okay, so we immediately have to run them through a series of questions to help break that down a little bit. And I want to do that for you today, kind of run through that scenario because that's critical to what we need to do to help you determine what's going to be the best pathway forward. All right, so first thing you need to know is that for a Android app and for a Apple app, they have separate submissions. Of course, they're different companies and they work differently. And to build an app, what's called natively, that's built for each of those stores, you have to build it twice, 2 different times, because they are different platforms. Apple primary platform that uses the Swift code, Swift programming language for their app development. So if you're going to build a app that you want to be native and you want it in the Apple Store and you want to have full functionality, this is things like the Weather Channel, Facebook, Instagram. Some of the bigger apps are all going to go native because it gives you 100% of the functionality that Apple offers. That the best of what you can do with an app can be in the app, but then you have to develop that in the Swift code. Then you have to develop a separate one for the Android store, and you have to develop that in Java because the Apple Store's programming language that it uses for apps is Java. So again, it's not just, so you have to kind of get away from thinking, hey, I want an app, it's just like building a website. No. Initially, if you want full functionality, you want all the greatest tools that each offers, you're going to need to build Apple's in Java. I'm sorry, I just said that wrong. Apple's in Swift, Android's in Java. Okay, you're gonna have to do it that way. Now, there are other options and opportunities then. So the second way of doing it, which is one that we recommend and work with, is called a hybrid app. So in a hybrid app, you use another code, typically, which is a platform that is built to convert the code language into the Java pieces that Google Play Store needs, the Swift pieces that Apple needs, base code. So a hybrid app is one code base that ultimately at the end gives each package, the Android package what they need, the Apple package what they need, and you put it in the store. So obviously you save costs there because you're not building 2 apps for a single purpose from ground up. You have one code base. You make changes once, it can go to both stores that way. Okay, so there's some uniquenesses with that. Typically, now as opposed to native, sometimes there are some limitations on what you can do with a hybrid app. So again, the more complex your app needs to be, the more you may need to think native. But hybrids continue to grow in use, capability, and functionality. I want to say that probably 95, 96% of what you can do with a native app, you can now do with a hybrid app. So unless you need something, that little window of 3-4% of complexity, you're going to be your best bang for your dollar is to go with a hybrid app. All right, and so a hybrid platform is like Ionic. Ionic is one that can be recommended to you. That's something that we might use. We're building you an app, so it allows us to develop code that will work again in both stores. You have to submit them separately, so there's different submission processes. You can actually submit an app to both stores, and Google and the Android Google Play Store may accept it and Apple may reject it, and they'll tell you why and that type of thing. And there's costs associated with submitting each time to an app store, so you got to be aware of that. So a lot different than a website, because you're still maybe going to need to have your code reside in a hosting environment, a web hosting environment. but you're going to have Apple developer license, you're going to have a Google app Android developer license. You have to pay renewals for those yearly. You have to pay for submissions to the app stores. There's back and forth. If they're saying, hey, this app doesn't, we need to do this, or we want to check this before they will allow it, there's more of a vetting process. And so that could take time, take dollars to tweak until they accept that. All right, so I went through two types already. I went through the native and I went through hybrid. Now, the other third type is the cheapest, and that is basically app systems, platforms that are kind of like, I want to say it's like a Wix website kind of thing, where there's templates you get to choose from. It's pretty basic, pretty cheap, has the most limited functionality, the most limited customizations with these types of things. So with an app CMS type program, you're going to choose a template. You can choose, do I want to do this or do I want to do this? And but you can't tweak those things and say, yeah, but for us we need to do this plus this. That type of thing. So it has a lot of limitations in that way. That's the third type of app, is just a app platform where you can kind of get your app, and you're going to pay typically a one-time fee. You might have to pay somebody to build that, and then you're going to have monthly or yearly fees on top of that. So that's the cheapest way to go, is with a app builder platform. So again, we had native, which is what the biggest app makers will use for theirs. The Facebooks, Weather Channels, ESPNs, all those type of things. And that's why when you go into, if you look at the Facebook app, for instance, on a Apple device versus Android device, sometimes they look different. Buttons are a little bit in different places, that type of thing, just because different, it was built totally from the ground up differently. So that's native. Then there's hybrid, which is going to be the same app, same code base, built in a platform which will submit it to each of the stores. And so that's why it is a hybrid. It's a unique code base that then transforms and is geared to work to submit for Google what it needs, for Apple what it needs in that regard. So that's kind of a recommended platform that we recommend today. Again, because it's going to do 95, 96% of what a native app does, but it's going to save you 30, 40, 50% of the cost. And then the third type is the cheapest, and not something we necessarily recommend, just because there's not a lot of customization. That's the app builder platform. So hopefully that gets you some information as you think about building an app and what you might want to do, what considerations that you need to take into account for that process there. And if you want something just to kind of help you kind of get a ballpark idea on what these cost, you can go to a site called appdevelopmentcost.com, appdevelopmentcost.com, and it kind of runs you through a scenario there. It asks you a number of questions, and it kind of builds a range of costs. You can kind of begin to see the difference. One of the early questions is, native, hybrid, and so it begins to help you identify those and go through that. The fourth type of app that I really won't talk about much, but it is technically there, is just a web app. So that's an app that's not necessarily in the app stores. It's not in Google Play Store. It's not in Apple Store, but it is a mobile only type website. So it's a web app. It's available to anyone with a internet connection. Okay, so that's just basically a mobile website. It's a web app, that type of thing. So that again is basically building a website that's customized. Now you lose some functionality there. You don't have necessarily like a push notification, right? You'd have to use SMS messages instead because you're not in the app store, to get push notifications on a device. So those are considerations. Hopefully that's helpful information today in this Live with Mike. If you have other questions, you can reach out to our team. We'll be glad to answer them and talk further. Hey, this is Mike. Make it a great week.